it's like 11 o'clock, let's call our meeting to order. I didn't bring a copy of the agenda, but the first thing is can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Oh, roll call, excuse me.
Yes. Clifton?
Yeah, here.
Fitch? Here. Stancil? Here.
All present, can I have a motion to approve the agenda? Motion by Diane, second from Heather, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. All right, who wants to start? Let's go.
All right, I'll leave you open. We had an opportunity to meet last week at our offices at OPN to discuss with Jake, James, and Mitch some approaches to how to get some of the corrections that we've identified on the sheet metal. Moving forward, I think it would be good for you all to understand what Foreshore and Mitch are proposing on how we proceed around the building. And then you may have some other questions about other closeout issues that you may want to address today as well. So with that, Mitch, I don't know whether you want to start or whether you'd like to open Jake, but I thought it was important that you all very clearly understand where they're going to be, what they're going to touch, and how that correction will proceed. I did a little summary of that and sent that to Diane just to give her an understanding of how that would potentially proceed. So have you all seen that? Okay, perfect. So we can start there. So with that, guys, I just described what we all discussed on 418, and if you would, maybe further describe that, and then we can see if we've got any questions.
Yeah, we're, so just how we're gonna get about doing this is getting an 85-foot street stick man lift, and we're gonna have to access on 2 points on each elevation around the building to avoid the interior sidewalks. Obviously, we're gonna have to bridge, you know, just to distribute the weight over the sidewalk and the curb to get up and over onto the property, and we will have runners out on the ground as well on the grass to try to keep from any sinking or rutting of the grass, any of that. And like I said, we'll have to, in order to avoid the sidewalks and the internal part of it, we're gonna have to come in from 2 different locations on each side of the building to access what we need to access.
Will you be in the street then?
We'll be on the grass.
On the grass?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, there's no way to reach from
okay.
the street, so.
Now, with that lift, will we fix that joint?
Yeah, we do all that once.
So it will be all of them, so we'll fix that,
Well, it's not just a single joint, there's multiple things that need fixed.
I think
or
what,
I'm at,
what Diane's referencing is we've got a counter flashing joint that's on the south elevation, the horizontal cove thing on the bottom of the triangular pediment that we need to address. That's in addition to the cosmetic pieces that we're talking about around the eaves.
So the wife lift is on site at that site.
Okay.
So I understand what you're saying, and I understand the bridging. If there's enough bridging, it shouldn't be an issue, should it?
I mean, there's no guarantees.
I know.
These lifts are extremely heavy, so
it'll still.
if there's
stay
any
with
flaw
us.
in the concrete or any weakness anywhere, I mean, I'm sure it'll show it, unfortunately, but as long as we distribute the weight, when we did the job originally, we went across several sidewalks without any situation whatsoever. Just using our platforms that we're gonna use on the turf, you know, not even doing the wood across it.
But there is a chance it could crack and or break.
Yes.
I'm not gonna lie.
There's a chance.
Yeah.
Okay. I would feel, I have a high doubts that they won't, to be honest with you.
Well, you're doing it at 8 spots, so one of them will probably do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the weight, yeah.
Exactly.
So the understanding is though, if that does happen, it will be addressed and at
And
no
you
cost to
guys
the
will
county.
fix it and we'll move on?
So,
Correct?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're gonna have to, and work with Bridals on, so take that, yeah, we're not just gonna crack it and leave you guys.
I need this nice, as close as I can by May 11th, because I know that's coming up, but we need things kind of so we can have an open house for all these donors that have given about $400,000.
I can't see them having this done by May 11th,
There's,
Diane.
I don't even know with the ground being
You'll still be
soft.
on, you're too soft, what am I looking at here?
I was hoping by the end of May, early June, getting
That would be a
started.
nice time frame because the whole thing is
The
first
Coat
weekend in
Festival is
June,
in
right?
June. So I would,
I think they've done it May 11th. So where will we be?
The cool thing is, we're
It's
coming
in
to this
June.
first weekend in June.
I think Friends Courthouse have sent a thing out May
Well, I
11th.
don't know about that. Mayor's, I
well,
don't see that.
we,
Where will we be? Will there be stuff sitting all over, or?
We can always do it later as well.
No, I don't wanna do
Yeah,
it
no, I'm
later.
just.
Get her done.
I agree.
no.
I don't wanna do it later, I just wanna know where I'm gonna be at, and if it's there, we'll just have to.
Are we gonna be here for a month?
I would count on it.
I don't want any, I don't want any rushing at all. I don't want this
Don't
done
rush. I
correct.
just wanna know.
That the priority is getting this done, not any of the events. Obviously, the quilt festival is important, but that's not till June.
But that sounds like that's a reasonable
Yes.
timeframe.
Yeah, so end of May.
Well, May 11th is 2.5 weeks, so we're
There's
gonna
no way.
start before that.
I don't think it's gonna be predictable. I think that as we discussed, a lot of this depends on making sure that we've got minimal rain so that we're not gonna damage the lawn terribly, and that's gonna really indicate your start. I think we talked about, if all goes well, there's a duration of maybe a month or a little more
Mhm.
to get all the way around. The other things that Cole expressed were they intend to come into one location, do the work, and move out of the site. So it's not like all of the site is gonna be damaged or, we're under construction at once. You will see one portion of one quadrant on one elevation worked on, and then they would move to the next.
That should minimize damage.
Right, now, as they move around the
Yes.
building, and you'll have to tell me, if there is damage, I would assume it would be best to address that after everything's complete, but I suppose you could do that incrementally as well.
Depends on how severe it is.
Right, so, but it is one section of one elevation at a time.
Will there be fencing around this while you're working on it? No? Okay.
Unless we need to divert traffic as far as one entry on the building, if we're directly above or anything like that, we may need to.
You can,
The reason why I ask is we have youngins that like climbing all over everything. And if you have machinery that's left there, I wanna make sure that there's no access by the public when you're not there. Because I'm assuming you're gonna leave it there.
Right.
So I wanna make sure that the safety is prioritized, so we don't have curious children looking at
Just
stuff.
don't know how are we gonna do that every night? I mean, we can set,
Other than
we can
securing
set
the
up,
machine, so they
we
don't.
can set up some cones, you know, with flags,
Mhm.
but I mean, like trying to, we'll pull the key and everything, but
Mhm.
I mean, if kids wanna get on that.
Is there a way?
But I mean, it's the same thing I guess the job site was a little.
The job site was completely
If-
fenced
Yeah.
off.
For most of, we were here when it wasn't.
We can pull the key and have cones with flags around the machine.
yeah, you can do what you can. I mean,
No
fence.
you can't stop.
They wanna break
You
the
guys,
law.
Just no fence.
if you want us to,
If you can maximize safety,
Yeah.
that would be wonderful,
okay.
please. Yeah.
Sure.
I would coordinate it, painting at the same time.
That's what I mean by pulling it out. We're gonna make sure it's painted, then we'll go to the next.
So we can accomplish all this at one time if we can.
So ideally, you pop in there, you prepare the metal work, Peter would come in, do that. This takes 2 or 3 days, move to the next spot.
Yeah.
And yeah, weather's a huge element, like right now, it's probably dry enough, but if we get that all-day soaker on Sunday, like.
Yeah, it doesn't, the next 4 days.
I hope it's not next week.
Yeah.
That's right.
So can someone update me exactly the detail of what they're doing, what you guys are doing? Because as you know, I sent everyone multiple examples of issues, so I didn't know if we have a breakdown of what actually is being done versus what was given.
It looks like you have an amateur artist on that screen, Rick.
Move that one along. Heather, we have done a report that outlines this, but I'll review this for everybody's benefit here and just try to give you an understanding of what we're talking about, remind everybody here. So this is north, and I'm gonna look at a note here to make sure that I'm not missing something. first, maybe just a reminder, we've got sidewalks that are sort of doing this, right? I'm gonna ignore the ramp for just a minute, but, and then we've got a walk that is coming in across here like so, and then there's one that comes out here, and there's basically the corner. So as we're talking about where the lifts will be, it will be here and here, and we will stay off of these, that will loop all the way around the building. So this is north. The areas that we are addressing are this, 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 and this. And this, by the way, is also the area that has that coping detail that we're going to address across here. Addressing this inside corner, we're addressing this, and there are some paint issues that are actually questionable right there. So those are the areas that we are going to be paying attention to.
So the lift will go, but will stay there, will you move it to each corner?
No, so this would be first,
Corner.
this would be second, and I don't know which way they'll choose to run around the building, but that's basically what would happen. So there's a component then that's going to occur at all these locations, depending on what we need to do. So 8 locations total, ignore that.
Could you do it from the street? You
That's
can't.
what we've looked at and they've determined no, that they can't. And so we're gonna stay off of anything that's on this inside chunk around here. And obviously we're gonna stay off of everything that's down here to the south where you've got your new brick entry. Have I missed anything or is anything?
No, I don't think so. One of my questions would be, when we are done with an area and we go to pull out and rent, are we okay to block some parking spots just so we don't have to chase cars and do all that, so we're able to just?
I would check in with the city on that. But
Okay.
that should be.
You could ask Drew Bar and they'll accommodate.
Okay, that would be my.
So,
They would.
so I appreciate you giving me that information. Those obviously were the worst ones. However, there were other issues in the other sections that you have not marked. Are those not being addressed?
They're not being addressed, they've been accepted.
They've been accepted. Who accepted them?
I'm accepting them.
Okay, but we do not have to accept them.
You can choose to do something else, yes, if you want to. I'm recommending they be accepted.
Okay.
They're not on the punch list at this point.
Okay, so some of those were, the quality of work is very low. So help me understand why they're being accepted.
The quality of the work that's very low are the areas that we are addressing.
Oh, those are extremely low, absolutely, because they don't even match
So those are the,
up.
Heather, those are the areas I've accepted, those are the things that we put on the punch list, and that's the way I'm recommending we proceed. The other areas are certainly not, I think, as anybody would wish them to be, but they are acceptable.
So, can you help me understand why you find them acceptable?
Because your standards and mine are different.
Well, clearly, yes, that's clear. But we're spending a lot of money on this project, so help me understand why they're
Because
acceptable.
I believe they are acceptable. So if I'm judging what is acceptable based on the documents that we've put together and the standard of care that I think is necessary, and I'm comparing that to the original way the building was constructed, and how we need to construct it during repairs, and how we need to accommodate some things that will be different naturally with repairs, I believe they are acceptable.
So some of the stuff that was poorly done is new stuff, so that's why I'm having a hard time understanding if they're new, why are we accepting them?
This is a conversation we had several months ago.
No, but we had this conversation, Phil, but he said, let me go back and talk to the sub, and we'll figure out what we're gonna do, what we're not gonna do, and we'll come back. Well, what I do not understand is why we are accepting poor quality work. I know you don't think it's poor quality.
I'm not saying we're accepting poor quality work. I'm saying we are accepting work that meets the standards that I believe are appropriate. Do we wish they could be better? Sure. Is it impractical to get them better? I think it is in these cases, and therefore I am choosing to accept those. You don't have to do that, but I'm choosing that what goes on the punch list and then what we need to complete. I've identified those, we have talked about those, you've asked me to do a follow-up report on all of those issues, which I did provide, and that explained why we ended up with the punch list that I believe is appropriate.
So who sets the standards? You
I
said
do.
that they're acceptable, okay, so you set the standards, and then you decide whether or not they comply with those standards?
Yes, because we wrote the specs and we wrote the document, put the documents together. So those define the standards.
So how can you define the standards if I'm looking at something and it's clearly poorly done? I have a hard time thinking that you, a professional, would accept that as acceptable. I really, and
Heather, you can
nothing against you guys, because, you know, I understand mistakes happen or things aren't watched or whatever. You know, I come from a family in construction, I get that. But what I don't understand is why. Because we're paying a lot of money for this, it's supposed to be brand new, doesn't look brand new, obviously not everything is new, but the portions that I looked at are supposed to be new, and they don't look new, they look like they've been repaired.
They have been repaired.
You don't repair new stuff. That's my point.
There's portions of this that are existing, there's portions of this that are new. Heather, you and I are never gonna be on the same page about this. This is the way that I need to bring the project to conclusion.
Are we doing this because we are late in the game, so therefore we're being forced to accept it?
No,
That's what it
we are
sounds
not
like to me.
doing that. Well, it can sound like that to you, but I have gone through the process. I've certainly reviewed the existing conditions on site. I've re-reviewed those existing conditions on site, and I've made a determination on which side of the line is acceptable and which is not acceptable. The unacceptable items are already on the punch list. Those are the ones that I will bring to completion with the contractors, and we will fulfill the obligation of the contract. If you disagree with that, you can disagree with that. But in determining what goes on and off the punch list, I'm the person who decides that, and then you can decide whether you will accept the project or not.
Well, it's clear that I'm in the minority here, so we can move on.
All right, we got the dental work, lift stuff nailed out.
I do have one question. I just want to make sure that we have considered this, and Jeff, you may have some insight on this. For the 85-foot lift, understanding the quadrants that we're talking about, we are sure we can get into those areas without doing anything on the interior sidewalks. What I'm asking about is, when I look at the north side specifically, I remember the lifts having to sort of come in here, and I want to make sure that we can get to these areas without driving over any of the interior sidewalks. And I believe you said you've
I believe we
addressed
can.
that. Okay.
I believe we can. We have the one area that we need to be really careful with the cistern.
Yeah, which is actually back in here, and there's another one here.
Yeah, so we should.
Those we're naturally off of. We've also got another one here.
Yep.
And in the areas that you're talking about, you should stay clear of.
Okay.
So how do you avoid cracking the sidewalk on the edges? Because obviously you have to roll over that.
At the curb, we'll build up wood blocking on the outside of the curb, and then we'll disperse the weight with as much plywood as we can on top of the sidewalk.
So that will be holding the weight over, so basically hovering over the sidewalk?
It'll be
Is that-
distributed.
No, I mean, the weight will be down on the sidewalk, that's where the risk comes in, but the more you disperse that weight out, the better odds you have of
Okay.
getting
Well,
over it without.
You've already agreed, if you do hopefully not crack it, you'll fix it. I hope you don't, but.
We go.
I know.
86 should reach them outside corners, but that inside corner, that's gonna be a tough one.
That's our toughest spot.
Yeah.
You're exactly right, yeah.
So let's, I'm not usually look to that, but if it does break, it would be repaired very quickly.
Well, once they're
Once they
done
get
with all 8
everything done.
spots, yeah.
It can be fixed like really fast.
Well, being the time of year, I would assume.
So if there's like big ruts, I mean, we're gonna have to, hire a landscaping company. There are times when our guys can come out and, repair that work, but, if we just want to, typically we hire a landscaping company,
Yeah,
so.
you don't know until you're there.
Yeah,
But
it's
I
so hard
You
to
might have to
tell.
dig up sod, put dirt in, put more sod down, or it might be nothing, or it might be, you've got a little half-inch thing, you sprinkle a little dirt on it and let the grass come back through and it fills in just fine.
But, you know, fixing concrete and grass in general can be done quickly, you know. But no, we're not gonna leave and wait a month before we get, you know, people back out here to.
And I would think on the concrete, Josh Lincoln was really quick to get
He
that stuff
was,
done. If
very
he had
quick.
some stuff to do there, I'm sure he could get in there and knock that out in probably 2 days.
Well, we've been around this whole building before. Are we using a heavier lift now, Jake? Is that why?
No, it's the same.
So what did we
It's on
do?
pretty good. That's, that yard is soft. It
It's,
What did we do
property
last
is-
time?
moisture very well, it's, they'll settle quite a bit.
But did we have a lot of repair from the last? 'cause
Well,
we-
there's so
we've
many
done
lifts,
this,
it wasn't
so-
just us, there's other, I mean, we successfully crossed some of those interior sidewalks, which is tough to do because it's so soft.
Without cracking?
Yeah,
Well,
So
the
the-
lawn was resodded, so any
Yeah.
damage to the lawn really doesn't matter.
Okay, that's kinda,
So if there's damage to the lawn, will you guys just put down sod, or are you just gonna seed it?
We just talked about it, depends
Just
on
talk,
what
you
it is.
just said
No,
what you do.
that's what I'm trying to understand, because I would like sod, because seeding will take forever to grow.
it'll depend on the severity, but, you know, we're also not gonna try to overkill it and spend a bunch of money when we get the same result.
If you got established grass that's 3 inches tall and your
Yeah.
depression is an inch, little dirt in there, that grass comes right up through it.
You can backfill that, or you can sprinkle dirt and that will come through. We just did that. You can-
And
yeah.
if we wanted to do another one of these meetings at the end to, you know, review damages and,
Sure.
and talk about how we're gonna go, you know, whatever you need from us to convey, you know, not really gonna,
Sounds good.
That's good.
okay.
South door, is it,
Any other questions?
oh, no, sorry.
And quickly, one last thing too, is it Jake and you will be working together to, because what we don't wanna do is move to corner 2, you know, and we find something back on corner 1, we wanna, we're good here, we're moving here, we're good here, you know, as we go through, is that?
so, and James has direct, their contact.
Can you cite when they're working, so
Yeah, that's
when
what I
they're,
described in the email.
yeah, so you're.
So every quadrant, we will visit to understand what the extent of the repair is before we really get started. And make sure that we're on the same page there.
Sure.
You'll go about your work, and then as we conclude, I will take another look at it to make sure that we're in acceptance, and then we're good. So we will be on call to do that. I just need a little notification, and we'll make sure that happens.
Perfect.
Yeah, and if, I think you were copied on this email that I sent to them, and if you would, let's forward that on. Okay, perfect. So you guys have the procedure that we talked about in our meeting at our office, so let's follow that, and we'll be good.
Okay,
Okay?
sounds good.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Do you want us, are you guys talking about other stuff now?
I don't think we're out talking about you anymore. so-
You're free to
You say
go.
that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have one?
I don't, so if there's any questions you want to ask or we
The
can
south
answer, we
door.
will certainly do that.
Is the south door functional? It's all been taped off. Why aren't we using it?
I don't know.
I would like to know what's going on with that south door, because I've had multiple people complain to me, and I'm tired of seeing people walking up the stairs trying the door, and then they're gonna have to walk back down and go around.
Sounds like
the
it's
different door.
It's,
able-
I just
there is
asked
some
them,
work to be
it's
done. It
always
sounds
been
like
working. We
let's-
didn't take the tape down. Is that
Let's
right?
remove
What do you
this
mean it's
item.
been working?
He said it
They just
works
said.
perfectly. We just
We,
never took
uh,
the caution tape down.
The glazing's gotta be done on the doors yet, the
But
window
that doesn't
interior
make them
windows.
not functional.
Oh, sure it does.
So we're
We
not
don't
gonna have
want
to
the
shut it
opening
back
shutting
down. If we
without
open it up now
glazing.
and have to shut it back down for them to work on it, or do we wanna inconvenience the public again through going through that stage?
We need to start using it. There's nothing, we can't use it now. Granted, yeah, the glass is gonna come out, so it might get shut down for a day. Or the glazing has to be done, but for the last month, as I understand it, it could have been being used.
Okay, so can we get some clarity on that? Because if the glazing needs to be done, I'm uncomfortable having doors be functional, because that's just gonna rattle the glass even more and potentially have it slip out. And there's other things on those doors that need to be done. I heard that, they're opening it, but it's not shutting completely, it's not locking completely. How do we understand what's going on here?
That was all reworked months ago, so doors were working fine when we left in May. And then when it warmed up, they did expand, so we came in and reworked the doors. And, so yeah, when we left it.
When you left a week prior, it said the doors was working fine, as the cameras point out, the door was left unlocked one night. We debated that morning, so you reworked the handle and everything, so.
See, it was working, when I left in January, the thing was everything was working fine, the thing was functional. And then you had a locksmith come in.
Locksmith hasn't done nothing to the door. Locksmith's not even touched that door.
I had trouble with the door
That's
too.
what I was told, but anyways, so when I came back, I done some adjustments, but it seemed, one key worked fine, the other one didn't, so I took it apart, looked at it, put it back together. Everything seems to be working fine, so I've left twice, and both times that completely functional there.
So the camera's lying that when you and Rick and Jimmy left that day, that the door closed properly that night. So the camera at the courthouse is lying, correct?
I didn't say that it was.
You told my boss it was working right. And I've got
Well, wait a
you-
second, it wasn't, okay, I can confirm it was not working right when I tested it out after when all this stuff happened. It wasn't working right. We reported back to you that it wasn't working right. So what happened after that?
I came in and worked on that after, this was when we had a walkthrough with Rick, this is after the fact, and then it swelled, it was like 65 degrees, and so I brought a guy down, and we reworked the door and reworked the handles with, for the catch. What we had a weather strip on the center so that it would block the, we went ahead and took that weather strip off, because it's got a 1/4 inch gap now, and we've got a mullion on the inside that'll block that, and then you've got the inside door that is airtight. But, yeah, when we left that day, I went ahead and I mortised that lock set in a little deeper to make sure that it caught plane. But, yeah, the doors have been operational, so.
But all this work you're describing was after the fact that you said the doors worked properly.
The doors worked properly in January, then when they swelled, when they, I had to rework them because of that, so.
Right.
So when you did the walkthrough, you should have thought that the door didn't close that night and it was left open overnight, correct?
So where are we right now?
The doors are functional.
Okay, so if someone walks in, pushes the thing, it will open.
Yeah,
And when it shuts, will it latch?
yes,
Okay, so when it shuts at night, it can be locked.
Yeah.
If someone is working late, our county attorney's working late, she often does. She's coming down, she goes outside the door closes, will it automatically lock?
yep.
It depends on how it's set, right?
Yeah, if it's got a,
You dog the door down so you lock it down at night. During the day, it'll be locked open, so that the automatic door, when you hit the automatic door, it'll open.
Okay,
All day long, so at night, every morning up you dog down, every night it'll have to be undogged.
And
So
since it's got a
that
crash bar on it, even if it's locked at, let's say it's 7 o'clock at night, someone locked it at
anybody,
4:30, you
yeah,
can
you
get
can
out.
push the bar and get
Without
out.
worrying about locking behind you, like the current doors where you need to turn around and lock it with a key.
okay.
But the last issue was the plunger wasn't closing because of the
But it
door.
sounds like that's
Correct.
resolved.
So that is resolved. Have we confirmed that that's resolved? Do we know?
They're saying it is.
Okay, so we can test that
Yep.
today. Okay,
what
let's test
about
that
the
today.
glazing? When is that gonna be done? Finish that?
Well, my guy from Comiskey, the owner, Paul Comiskey, he's given me a price for that. He's been off for the last 2 weeks, he's had health issues. So that's what I'm waiting on.
Who's doing the abatement? See, the glazing has to be abated. Is that something that Comiskey then is gonna sub out, or how is that being addressed?
I sent an email to you guys saying that that's not something we can handle because our insurance doesn't cover that. which is
Oh,
pretty
that
difficult.
wasn't in the scope, so we'll,
Yeah, that was just like the other.
Right, we
Yeah,
just,
so
you
you
can
can
do
just
that.
like that abated.
yeah,
So
you
we,
can have the other guy.
so whoever abated it around the
Yeah.
outside of the doors can abate the glazing.
Can you ask them to do it? And you can caulk that right in the door. I mean, they'll remove it, and then you can put that back in without taking the doors off, can't you?
Yeah, most of that's coordinated.
But my concern is the stability of the existing glazing. If that door is constantly opening and closing, I'm concerned with glass coming out.
That's not the bad side, it's the side that stays stationary that's worse, I think.
Well, they both look bad, to be honest with you.
That
And I have
wouldn't
a
take
feeling
you-
that door will get more activity because of the ramps. Once people know it's open, it's gonna get more activity. So that's my concern, is if we officially open this door before the glazing is done, it's gonna rattle that glass. that currently is not in there
I
in
don't
my
think any more
mind.
than it's been getting rattled for the last 15
Yeah,
years.
I don't think it's gonna go anywhere or fall out, Heather. I think that once the abatement's done, then the new glazing has to go back in. You
Right
can't use
now,
the
right
doors.
away, yeah.
Yeah. And when the new glazing goes back in, it does have a period where that glazing will be soft.
So we would have to close the doors.
Well,
You don't necessarily have to close the doors. I might suggest we put, plastic or something over the interior until it cures.
So
It may
nobody
take,
sticks the finger
it
in
may,
it.
yeah, it may take 60 days for that to completely cure, and then I believe that's when you can come back in and actually stain it to start to approximate the color of the door.
Okay.
But there is a period. It's not like we can do it all in one day and it's
Okay.
done. There's gonna be a curing period that's required for the new glazing.
But it won't have to be shut down during that. The
I don't think
glazing
so.
will hold the glass in.
Right.
Okay.
Whether it's set up or not, it will
If
hold.
somebody
it.
wanted to go up and stick their fingers in it, they probably could, so if we put a piece of, opaque plastic or something on the interior temporarily, it would discourage that, and you could probably still use the doors if you want.
Is it still the stuff you roll out like a snake and you put it in like?
It's
Still
similar.
the same?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
an
that's-
interior product instead of an exterior product.
But that, it doesn't take that long to get dry.
It will take that long
That
to
will?
dry, because especially on an interior, which is why I use a special process, the exterior cures with UV, the interior does not.
I'm assuming we have to reglaze the exterior too, correct?
No,
No.
it'll
It's
set in a
set.
little bed when they put it in properly, but the interior is the only piece that gets glazed.
Okay.
The exterior is wood, and
Just
the
that one
interior is
side.
glazed since they put it against the
Okay.
wood and glazed it in.
So they don't seal between the wood and the glass
It's not
at
like
all?
a stone.
So I wasn't clear who actually is calling the abatement company. I know it needs to be coordinated, but is it something you are calling or the county's
I
calling?
wished you
for
would,
the
because you
abatement?
could get the same one you did before.
Just have them bill the county.
Yeah, just bill us.
You guys hire
Did we,
them.
did we hire
Like,
them, Joe?
we can't hire them because,
Okay.
Oh,
I mean, I can help coordinate them. when
Let's
the
get
time
the same
comes.
guys in, did it last time, make sure
Yeah.
they coordinate with the glaziers, so when it's out, the glaziers come in and.
so you got them chipped, do you wanna do that again? You have to coordinate with management. What about the stain? Oh, no, you wanna talk about that?
Yeah, I think we determined that the interior was not finished holistically, and that was one thing we had a question on last time we all met, and that's something that we need to do, right?
Yeah, so.
And that can all be coordinated at the same time.
And then the glass company's also replacing some of those panes of interior glass that, for whatever reason, don't come clean.
Yeah.
That's the simplest thing.
It came on the
Something to do
roller
with
wrong, I think.
manufacturing.
If you look up high now, I never noticed it across, it's terrible.
All of
Now
it's
that the
bad.
sun, it's
All of it's
really bad, it's getting worse, it looks so dirty, but it's not. It's, I think when it came off the roller,
It's gonna be
something
replaced.
happened. It
Glass
needs
people said
all
they're gonna
re-
replace all of it.
It
Yeah.
needs all
Talking
replaced.
about around the edges, or like where are you seeing?
All of it's bad,
You're talking about
all
Trimwork?
of it.
The vestibule side lights and top
Every
light.
bit of it is, if you look at it now that the sun is right, it's
I think
really
it's a
bad.
bad batch of
What
glass.
you're saying on that top piece of glass?
Even the
Yeah,
top is,
All of the glass
all of
is
it,
bad.
every single piece of that is
Right,
bad.
but is it just at the edges, or is it the whole?
It's
Well,
all the glass.
All of it, it goes, now that the sun has changed, on the big piece up above the doors, the transom, it's all across the middle. And then at first, on the sides, it seemed to show more on the edges, but now it's in through the middle too. You could see it yesterday, it was very bad.
Okay, so I'm told that they're gonna replace that glass, so that's,
Yeah,
that's
all
good.
of it, it needs all done.
So you'll
So,
contact the Glazers then, just have them coordinated with me?
To replace the glass?
No, the Glazers for the
Oh,
shed
yeah.
doors.
whoever replaces the glass.
Or if you just want to send me the
You'll have to
equipment
have
company's
it,
number, I
When
can.
you send me the information, I just coordinate with them.
Okay.
But I mean, if you'll reach back out to them and coordinate them like you did before.
and you'll have to call the guy to take the asbestos copy and all.
I'll
That's what he's
coordinate
talking-
with them. but
that's what he's talking
it's-
about.
Oh, yeah, you'll
City
coordinate
Hall.
them together, thank
It's not
you.
my company I set up. I just coordinate with them. and
Yeah,
do the
thank
job.
you.
So, Rick, have you finished punching the south doors? Or are you still?
There's punch list items for all the things we're discussing. They're not punched, and I'm not gonna punch them until we get all of this resolved, and then we'll do one last punch list.
Okay.
Now, I do wanna just make sure that I remind us of something that we discovered. I think Comiskey came down and did that glazing on the interior vestibule after you guys had done all the trim work and the stops and all that fit very well. And they put those things back in not correctly, and now some of those, at least at the time I looked at it, were mismatched. So when Comiskey comes down, I think it would be smart to make sure that the stops go back in the right place and that you guys are all satisfied with how they're putting that thing back together. Remember that?
You talked about the trim.
Like on
Interior
one of the
trim
doors or
stops.
one of the sidelights, they had the wrong.
It's like they mixed them up when they put them back in, they did not do it carefully and put them back in the right places.
The miter edges
Oh,
don't
yeah,
match.
okay, I'm with you now.
Yeah, it's just when the stops
Yeah.
came out, they had gaps when they
Yeah.
went back in, and some of them were proud of the door and other stuff. It was
Exactly.
like, you guys did it right, and they
Yeah,
mucked it up when they put the glass in.
yeah.
So, are we, is that the only trim that you're looking at as part of your punch list, or is there other trim that?
I believe that's the only components on the punch list that are there, but I'm not, I can't speak to that, to be honest, Heather, with any accuracy. I have a punch list that we did the last time. The last time I looked at any of that was when we all walked together. I know that portions of that have been complete, and Mitch has been sending us updates on what those items are that are complete. But I'm gonna look at all that one more time. I'm not gonna keep doing repeated punch lists. So when all of that is ready to punch, I will do it one last time. Okay?
So if we could confirm that that south door can be opened, I'd like
Using it
to,
immediately.
I'd like we could do that, maybe clean off the glass, remove whatever temporary signs are on there and clean it a little bit if you could, Chip. And then do we want to let people know, or just let them figure it out?
Start by removing the signs on the other doors.
Or let's kind of play with it before we do that today.
Sure.
Make sure that's
And
what.
then
When I
we
messed with
need,
it, but we didn't know how to.
does that lock, is
We
a different
didn't-
key?
Just panic bars.
I know, we,
It's a-
Yeah, you need to press the panic bar, turn the
Yeah.
key so that.
So are we just gonna let him be in charge of that door then, since it's a completely different key, or are we gonna have it rekeyed?
It's the same key as the exterior door.
Oh, it is? Oh,
Is it
okay.
really?
so does
The
it
old
still,
style key?
Pardon me?
It's the same with the old style key that I had.
It's the same key.
Yeah, we have
Used up
it
in
more the
door.
same.
so if I wanna go out that at night, I can still use my old key
You
and
should
You
lock
don't
it?
need to use the key
You don't
when
need to use the
it's,
key.
You've got
when
crack
it's locked
bar.
properly.
I know,
It's just if you wanna come
Long as
back
it's
in, you
locked.
have to.
right, I can use my key.
You should, like today when we were looking at it, you shouldn't have been able to walk out it by hitting the
I
crash
know.
bar, but.
But if I wanna get back in, I can use my old key.
Any other questions?
I don't believe so.
Okay? Thank you all. I know it's important to hear from Forest
Yeah, I
River.
appreciate that, so we know what we're getting into.
They will inform us when they believe they're ready to start. When we talked last week, they thought potentially it might be 2-3 weeks out, but again, with a little bit of rain coming this week, it may tweak that a little bit, so.
We need to so.
Okay?
Okay, super.
All right.
Have a motion to
Thank you.
adjourn.
So-
Motion by Diana, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Heather, all in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Michelle, I apologize for the report.